Let's talk about old wives' tales. The phrase old wives' tale has been around a long time. Early translations of the Bible, I'm talking first century CE, have this phrase in the first epistle to Timothy, and it translates to profane and old womanish myths. Now, 16th century translations of this turned it into old wives' tales because in Old English, the word wife just meant woman. It didn't imply marriage necessarily. Think of the word fishwife, which means a woman who sells fish. Of course, it's also another not so often used slang term for a coarse and ill-mannered woman who likes to curse a lot. Because that's what we like to do throughout history, is undermine a woman's value and her domain by turning it into something superstitious and silly. I love an old wives' tale, true or not, because honestly, I think they make life more fun. But knowing that they trace their history back to the very important community building tradition of women telling each other stories, they perform the same kind of service that gossip does. I mean, it allows us to share our knowledge and intuition so that we can have better lives. Here are some books that I think tap into that feeling, this folk tradition of women telling each other stories so that we can understand our world a lot better. I read The Great Grown-Up Game of Make-Believe last month, and while I was reading it, I was getting this feeling of folk tradition. Lauren D. Woods has 28 stories in this collection, and each one features someone who's seeing the realities of adulthood for the very first time, but many times with an element of fantasy. We have a mother who is frying up pieces of her actual brain to offer as dinner for her children. By giving us a framework of fantasy for these kind of mundane and trivial experiences, I think it amplifies the message to something like a fairy tale. Now, Woods also has a realistic take in a few of these stories, and I think those may have touched me even more. One of my favorites is a young girl who revisits this piece of her mother's life during a separation, and she sees her mother as a real flawed human being for the first time. Now, here are some books that I have on my TBR. I'm just starting Some of Them Will Carry Me by Giada Scodelario. This is another short story collection, and it is bold. The first story is pretty provocative. It will definitely suck you in. There's cultural commentary here, surrealism, there's recipes, there's a lot of folklore, everything centered around Black women and their experience. Next, we have The Dry Season by Melissa Febos, and this documents her year of celibacy. She discusses what she learned about herself and what she learned about pleasure when it wasn't dictated to her by her lovers. And she connects to Virginia Woolf, to Octavia Butler, to Sappho. So I think that this is a really cool conversation of women between generations. Newbury Port by Lucy Ellman is intimidating because it is very big. It was shortlisted for the Booker Prize in 2019. It's experimental. It's basically one long sentence with a housewife who's baking, and she's thinking about her life and her family, herself, while she's also confronting her anxieties around living in America, gun violence, and just kind of like the disaster that we wake up to every day in the news. I loved Sheila Heti's Alphabetical Diaries, and after I read it, I just bought everything that she has ever written. How Should a Person Be is an exploration of how we should live. The back of the book says it's part literary fiction, part self-help, part examination of just what it's like to be a creative being, but also a sexual creature. I really like how Heti centers pleasure in a lot of her work because it can often be deemed as too domestic or too feminine to be taken seriously. I think it's important to recognize the power of women's stories, to not just entertain us or thrill us or challenge us, but to keep us alive.
Good morning. Tell me an old wives' tale that you believe that others may not even know about. I'll go first. My mother-in-law really believes that way back in the 60s, there was this thing. It was called Lydia Pinkham. They still have it. You can still get it. But she was having trouble getting pregnant with my husband. So she started taking this. And she really believes that that's why she got pregnant. And that's not what it was for. It was for like menstrual cramps or something like that. I don't even really know. I've never seen Lydia Pinkham, but they still have it because my stepson's wife was having trouble getting pregnant. So she told her about it, and she went and got some, and her baby is due in October. So there you have it. They say there's a baby in the bottom of every bottle, a boy baby, and both of them. So my husband, she took a bottle, she had a boy, and then now my daughter-in-law, she's pregnant, and it's a boy. So there you go. So tell me yours. Leave it in the comments.
Pregnancy and postpartum wives' tales that actually sound crazy, but I did them. Starting off a little easy is not telling your mom when you're in labor. The saying is when your mom doesn't know you're in labor, you labor easier. I have 2 sisters and they have 4 kids in between both. My mom didn't know that they were in labor with any of them. So I'm like, I can't break the tradition and then have a hard labor myself, so I didn't tell my mom. Did it work? I don't think so because the labor was hard. I mean, when is labor really ever easy? But next time I'm calling my mom. The second one I know I'm gonna get judged for, but I don't care because it worked and I'm not telling you to do it. Don't do it. So what happens is when your milk comes in, it can be really painful. One day I just woke up and my tatas were huge. They were rocks. I thought I was gonna get mastitis. I was freaking out. But overall, it's just really painful. For me, right? I don't know what your tatas do. And the remedy is, I'm just gonna say it, you take your husband's pee, you lather it all over your tatas, you let it soak in, you don't wash it off for up to an hour or more. You also take collard greens, you put them in the freezer. Once they're frozen, you put them in your tatas and you let them sit. It feels amazing. This is the proof. It was a rough day. After about an hour, milk just starts to come out. Then you take a hot shower, wash off the pee, and pump. It honestly saved my life. I would take his pee and I would do it again if I had to. What I really wonder though is how the hell did they figure this out? How did they come to this conclusion? Back in the day, what type of experiments were they running, dude? Now that we've opened up a can of worms, please tell me your wife's tales in the comments.
Another one, hating every red light, getting behind a slow driver, forgetting something in the house, deciding to get a morning coffee when you normally don't, an animal crossing the road. Those are always the universe is slowing you down to prevent whatever bad thing is trying to come your way. Go. Every day I surrender and pray to Jesus and admit I can't do this on my own. Everything somehow gets better. It never ceases to amaze me. I love that one. I don't know if it's an old wives' tale, but I don't just let anyone touch your hair. Don't let just anyone touch your hair. I've had the same hairdresser for years. Honestly, I think I believe this too, 'cause I've stuck with the same hairdresser for a long ass time. Another one says, leave 7 limes or lemons out when having a guest over, and if they stuck current color or rot, they were envious. Whew. I need all these in a PDF. Never bring a shovel inside or you'll bury someone soon. If a bird flies into your window, death will soon follow. Death comes in threes. Never open an umbrella inside. Never sweep under someone's feet. Born and raised in Appalachia. This one is from Appalachia, the one we're talking about. Okay, another one says, I think brilliant ideas that are labeled as witchcraft are just brilliant ideas discovered by women that haven't been credited by 2 men. Thanking inanimate objects, i.e. thanking an automatic door once in a while, stops the door from being jammed. Thanking the lone Moor for doing a good job. When they'll do anything, but when the robots rise up, they leave me alone. That was funny. It's how to get engaged, okay? They don't ever put a welcome mat on your door. You're welcoming evil spirits, okay? Anytime you see a dragonfly, that means there's abundance and prosperity. I love that.
Some more TikTokers participated, and they say some said hitting every red light, getting behind a slow driver, forgetting something in the house, deciding to get morning coffee when you normally don't, an animal. Mm, oh yeah, I'll make a screenshot for you. Okay.